diplomat, former envoy of Israel to India, Ambassador Daniel Carmon. Thank you very much for making time in the middle of all that is happening. I want to start by asking you if you're okay, if your family is okay, and sending you all the good wishes and prayers from the people of India, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're going through terrible times. You described it very vividly and accurately. We are in a state of shock, rage, anger, disbelief to what has happened. Yeah, we're trying to cope with it. We have been used to all sorts of crises and wars, but this one is a different one because it has touched civilians. And I didn't see until now some of the footages that you showed. I haven't seen. I prefer not to see them, and they indeed are shocking, terrible. I'm in the safe room. The family is fine. Thank you for asking. The problem is down south, and we have tragedies following tragedies and stories told, and parents that heard on the phone the last breaths of their kids. I mean, those stories are really terrible, and they touch not soldiers, not fighters, but civilians who came to a festival, to a nature festival. Civilians who were sleeping at night in their beds, and they were taken, slaughtered. The October massacre, this is how I would call it.
Yes. Ambassador, you mentioned that some of the footage is so awful you can't bear to look at it. And it's a tough call for us also. Most of the videos are too graphic actually to be broadcast. But I think it's also important for the world to understand what actually has happened. And as you've mentioned, what's made this different is that civilians have been massacred. That's what actually happened at the music concert. And with your permission, I'm going to show you and our audience a video that has now been verified to be authentic by the New York Times. The Hamas actually dragging away one of the concert goers who was female on their motorcycles. We're just going to play you a little clip here. And while that is awful to watch, there's another one that's even more disturbing, and that is women in custody. And you can see them crouching. They're in the custody of Hamas, once again released by Hamas on their channels. And you can see bombs go off in the background and them crouching with fear. I'm just going to play this out and come right back to you.
Oh my God. וואו, זה מסלים. שחר כל הבית. איזה מגורים? עדיפיות. האיש הזה.
I know that must be very difficult to watch, and you said what makes this different is the way in which civilians have been targeted. How would you describe the feeling, the sentiment among the people of Israel today? Is it rage? Is it, mass sadness? Is it resolve? What is the word that you would use?
I would use a couple of words because I'm looking at two very different worlds, or maybe more than two different worlds. One of them is really the surprise and the disbelief of the fact that terrorists, we have been victims of terror for many years now, just like India has been. And when we talk about terrorism, we know what we're talking about. This was an act of war, with immediate implementation of war crimes. I mean, the worst war crimes by a terrorist organization that has become, in the last few years, an army, and with a political role in Gaza, a mixture of two trends that really put Hamas as a player. But you would expect no terrorist attacks at all, because with terror terrorists will not reach any of their beliefs, would not get any result from terror. That's something that we have shown throughout the years. But what happened this time is so different. But I do want to add one positive note, which is so crazy. I feel so strange saying it. All those footages of people, there is a positive side, because there are so many people missing after this massacre, that when you see people on a video clip, you know that at some point they were alive. And let's hope that this is like a guarantee, like an insurance for them to be brought back to the country.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 130 hostages and prisoners, as they are called, or maybe even
Is that a confirmed number, that at least 130 Israelis and other international citizens have been taken hostage?
It's not a confirmed number, but this is the number that they're talking about. But it's not confirmed neither to the upside or downside of the number, because there's still many people missing, and the fighting is not over.
Yes.
We have to understand that there were more than 1,000 terrorists who infiltrated Israeli territory. They attacked more than 20 localities and 11 army bases. Now, as we now speak, there are 2 or 3 locations where fighting is still going on. And the belief is that within the next 24 hours, they will be also cleaned, as we say. And you talked about offensive. The offensive has not started. What is happening now is the defensive offensive, making sure that Israel regains control on its own territory, which it has lost for a couple of days in 20 or so